So here's an example of cladding a floor with plywood, 5mm ply over the floorboards, and the boards are running perpendicular to the floorboards so that they provide extra support when we lay some engineered wood flooring. So I'm just going to demonstrate how to lay boards down this hallway. So here's what I've done. I've done a quick sketch of the dimensions of this hallway. I don't want actually the board to end at a floorboard because we get a seam at this doorway here where there's a lot of traffic. So there will be a tendency for that to squeak and not have as much support. So we want a full board across the doorways. So I actually want to stop in the middle of the board rather than near the edge of the board here, because I want every joint to be covered. Then we'll leave a 10mm gap either side around the walls, just for expansion. Sometimes the floor actually goes up at the sides. So for this section, we're going to cut a detail around this door opening and also a detail around this curved step here using a radius so that we've just got a nice fit. We'll also cut a notch out for the pipes. So you can actually use a tape measure as a distance gauge by holding your finger along the board edge and a pencil along the tab at the front so that we can just scribe along a nice straight line to mark a radius. So just basically roughly getting equal distance on both sides, and we see that this radius is about 20 centimeters. And then there's a trick we can use with the layout square. Here's my drawing. I double checked all the measurements when I took them, so I'm very confident these are all accurate, and I've marked them up on the board, some with the chalk line, the longer lines, some with the tape measure using the radius, and they all add up, they all match the measurements here, so I'm confident this is an exact fit, and I can just do all the cutting in one go rather than going and testing after each cut to see how it fits. We do it in one go. About halfway across the floorboard, which is nice. And we've got a pipe here, so I need to take a notch out. I'll just strike a line. So there, like, you can see there's some burn marks. It is a sign that the blade probably needs replacing because there's too much friction there, and if we look at it, it's a little bit rounded. It means I probably hit something like a nail in the past and that's blunted it. So yeah, we need a new blade on this one. The notch is there now, we can just slide this in. So I've left the board factory edge on this side so we can abut up to that and leave a nice 3mm gap across for expansion. And so that's perfect. That's got a 10mm gap down either side, and yeah, just ready for the next section to go in here. So there's the finished piece. There weren't any adjustments, it all fitted in nicely. You can see the accuracy of that radius is nice. Fits around the doorway nicely. And a bit of a gap here, so I always keep the offcuts, and these can be just popped in here just to fill that in. There's a cap here around the radiator pipe. Unfortunately they're glued down, so rather than damaging the pipe, I'm going to leave it be. It's below the surface of the ply, and I may even put a little bit of underlay around that as well to stop any noises when you walk over. I've just gone around and loosely fixed one end of each board just to get the alignment right. So I've got 3mm gap around everything to make sure that I don't stump myself by trapping a board somewhere. Everything's got a nice even spacing now. So I just loosely screw one end of the board. The next step is to infill that every 150. And then I go in a T-shape. I go up 30 centimetres or so up the length of the board. And that's almost like rolling out the board like a piece of pastry, so there's no humps or bumps, and flattened nicely against the floor. And then I'll go out like a fan, in a fan shape, just to roll it all out and flatten it out. So I'm using self-drilling screws, which means I don't need to pilot any holes. They go in much easier. They've got a little cutting tip and a nice coarse thread to hold everything down. Also, I had to calculate the depth, so the floorboards are 18mm deep, the ply is 5mm deep, so I'm using 20mm screws. I don't want to use any longer screws in case I go through cut a pipe or some cables. Sometimes there is a concave in the floor, and the screw won't reach, so you need to use a slightly longer screw in that case. So I've screwed about every 150 around the main sort of thoroughfare, and then 30 centimetres everywhere else in the middle of the boards, and again 150 around the edge of the boards. Unfortunately, I had to use a separate piece for this step because the board wasn't quite wide enough, and it was just not worth cutting a full-length board to go here. So yeah, that's the first board down, and we just need to screw all of the rest down here, including the hall.